Oh, hey, how are you? Hope you're having a great day. Hey, tune in to the next episode of Putting the Pieces Back Together with myself and John Galena. We're going to have our friend Scotty Pigg all the way from Alaska. He's not flying in, he's going to zoom in. But he's going to tell us about his 20-year Air Force career, what he's doing now, and what he's doing to help other veterans. And it's going to be a great show. We're also going to have Tim Bates on there, Tim is a retired Army veteran that works here at Purple Heart Homes and helping us do stuff like this. He's going to be sharing some of the projects he's been working on, and also Devil Dog Devin will be there as well. You don't want to miss it. This is coming up next, all right? We'll see you then.
Well,
Poor guy.
who says Air Force doesn't run? Uh-oh.
A forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Galena and Brad Borders.
Wow, wow, wow. What a day. We're already getting started. Lots of laughter going on. We got folks from Alaska. We're calling Brad all kinds of names, and he's laughing at them.
You sound an awful lot like Devil Dog this morning.
I sound an awful lot like Devil Dog this morning.
Devil Dogs. Good morning.
I tell you what, I am feeling so good after surgery. I am just ready to take on the world.
Oh, are you really?
I am.
That's
It's
impressive.
great.
Yeah, they
I
cut
think
your
I think
guts
it was
open?
I think it was a surgery, but it may have been 2 weeks away from
me?
the office. Well, I wasn't going to say from you, but yeah,
From the
no,
office.
that's great.
I'm ready
That's
to
great.
go. Well, just give it another day.
Give it another day. Yeah, I did wake up and read some email this morning, and I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. Purple Heart Homes is a 501c3 based right out of Statesville, North Carolina, but we do work nationwide. To include Alaska, we help veterans solve housing issues through safety and accessibility renovations and helping folks that are housing insecure. And we build some tiny homes here and there. And so far, we've helped 1,030 we've done 1,030 different veteran projects all across the country in about 42 states. So,
And that's served a little over 1,800 veterans.
yeah, and almost 5,000 family and community impacts. So that's pretty good. You can find out more about us at phhusa.org and go check out what we've got going on for 2023. So before we get going, I got to tell you a quick story. So my wife is she joins us in the studio, and she loves being here. And
Now, wait a minute. You're going to get us kicked off the air if she starts calling you names
yeah, I know,
again.
that's right. Affectionately known as Mrs. Giggles. And last night, I was down in my basement doing an online bike race, and she comes down the stairs and she says, "Are you in a race right now?" And I went, "Yeah." And she said, "There's something in the exhaust fan of the oven." And so I got done and I went up, and sure enough, there was a little critter in there, a little friend. And my wife's an animal lover. She loves all things animals.
But he was
squirrels.
small and cuddly, wasn't he?
He was small and cuddly, and but evidently when she was cooking our dinner, he was staring at her out of the grate.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't they make a movie about this? Was that Mr. Ratatouille?
Yeah, of mice and men, and so I decided to make a funny TikTok video. I do these TikTok videos called Marriage Pro Tips on things that folks ought to do to keep their marriage spicy and safe and long and enduring. And anyhow, I made Marriage Pro Tip #1 video with me extricating this mouse from our kitchen, and my wife's reaction to it, well, let's just say FCC regulations would be violated.
So she was giving the pro tip this time.
She was calling me all kinds of names. I had that mouse in my hand, and I was like, "Hey, look, it's still alive. Look, here it is. It's wiggling. Get that thing away from me."
I love it.
It was quite funny.
It.
So
we've got a really exciting guest today. We had to bring in a special guest today, all the way from Alaska. Isaiah has been a little lonely in here as he's been surrounded by Army and Marine veterans for the last several months.
Yeah, his perimeter's been breached.
We brought in an Air Force veteran for him, a very special guest, as Scotty Pigg has been listening to us for a number of months now, all the way from Alaska, and been a great follower. Chap's been on his podcast for a number of times, although it's typically about midnight here in North Carolina when you.
It's usually at 9 on Saturday nights, but he's affectionately known with a name like Pig. You got to be called Oink. So there you go. So we just call him Oink. And hey, Scotty, welcome to the show. Thank you for. It's 4 a.m. where he's at. He works third shift. In a top secret bunker somewhere up in Alaska. We can't disclose the information, but hey, Scotty, thanks for being here today.
Anytime, Brad. Like you said, just returning the favor. You've been on our show and podcast several times, and we're just proud to support anything that Purple Heart Homes does and is behind. So of course,
that's awesome.
Once we heard you guys had a podcast, hey, we're there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into we're of course going to get into DV radio, and we're really excited about what you guys do. And I have been on there, and it is quite the different format from what we do here.
Well, the FCC doesn't regulate
the
podcasts,
FCC
right?
does not regulate their show at all, and so it can get a little spicy sometimes.
And what does DV radio stand for all our listeners?
Well, typically, the DV stands for dysfunctional veterans. There's a lot of misconceptions and nomenclatures associated with that people don't like that terminology, the dysfunctional. But we look at it as a way to open up the doors to start conversations. Everybody's a little messed up in one way or another, depending on which branch of service, what you've done, what you've seen. So it's basically just a moniker to get the door open to conversation between veterans.
That's
especially
fantastic.
when we had our own line of T-shirts where you said, leave me alone, or does not play well with others. I had actual couple veterans see that shirt like, where can I get one of those? It's just one of those things that we, opened up underneath the nomenclature of dysfunctional veterans. There's 3 separate entities. Dysfunctional Veterans, again, was a Facebook page that sold T-shirts and had the typical dark humor, military, what have you, jokes and everything else. Unfortunately, that got banned and taken down off of Facebook. But they also, that was actually to support what they call the DV Farm, which is a took care of homeless veterans and those that are, on drugs and alcohol that fail out of the typical programs. We take the hard cases. We didn't take the ones that, that haven't tried, the 12-step program that maybe failed it and just can't get quite off the streets and what have you. So we take the hard cases and put them to work, basically. A program that the creator, Mike Rivers, a.k.a. DV6, started, that he succeeded with, the program. So that's separate. Again, that's the 501c3 company, the DV Farm. And then, of course, you got DV Radio, which is kind of what I fell into, is just basically every Saturday night, it's brothers and sisters getting together, telling jokes, and having a good time.
Yeah, and and the segments are good on there. It's called Barracks Talk, but then they do news, they do weird news, right? And it's fantastic, right? And so if you can just Google search DV Radio and find out, and you can listen on all the platforms, just like you can listen to any other podcast on Spotify and Apple Music and all that. And so,
so Brad and I had an interesting lunch yesterday with a Marine. He retired in 1999 and kind of plugged in a little joke there about crayons, and he's like, I've never gotten that. I don't understand. We didn't eat crayons when I was in the Corps. He says, I don't know when they started that. It must have been after I got out.
It was when Devin joined.
It was when Devin joined. Yeah,
Devin joined the Marine Corps, and they issued him a set of Crayolas for his map reading class, and he just decided they looked really good, thought they were Jolly Ranchers, and ate them. So
I don't know. Maybe back then they were licking windows. I don't know what exactly they were doing, but it's really
they ran out of the Windex. Flavored Windex.
That's right. Flavored Windex and crayons. That's awesome.
They didn't have any paste.
We've got another guest here in the studio with us today. We've got Tim Bates. Tim is a engineer, and he's also a project manager with Purple Heart Homes. Has deployed himself, and just an all-around great veteran. So we're happy to have Tim with us today as well, and we'll be hearing a little more from him.
And Tim's got a podcast too.
He does.
Yeah,
well, I'm going to tell you, Tim.
He's a man of many talents.
Yes, a man of many talents. Let me tell you, Tim has a race car. And
Yeah.
he races online professionally.
Yeah, professionally.
Yep, and
Yeah.
so if you want to learn more about that, be sure to
Didn't you beat
stay
Dale
tuned.
Jr. in a race one time?
Let's not talk about that. He racked out. I think I finished ahead of him.
Jimmy Johnson? Did you race Jimmy Johnson?
No,
one time?
I've never seen him on there.
Okay, all right. Well, if you did, you'd beat him, wouldn't
That's
you?
right.
Very cool.
We'll talk more about that. So, hey, Scotty, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. That was a good intro. Tell everybody a little bit about you personally, where you're from, and what led you to join, and family, and all that stuff.
Sure. Actually, originally from Illinois, about 100 miles straight south of Chicago. Farming community. So the biggest thing we had going for us in my town of 5,000 people was McDonald's. So knowing that was kind of limited in choices, and growing up so poor that we couldn't afford to pay attention, that it was one of those things that military is a way out of that situation. You could always better yourself. And once that Air Force recruiter came to the school, I grabbed the pamphlets, had to write my junior English paper, passed that thing, and never looked back. I did the delayed enlistment program for over 10 months, and then joined right after high school.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Yes.
After high school, we traveled the world. Went to Kadena Air Base, Japan was my first base. Then went to straight over to Germany. Did 3 years there. Made it over to Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho, which that at the time was the AEW, the Air Expeditionary Wing, where it was a concept where we had bombers, tankers, and fighters all at one base, where we fought together, trained together, played together, and then something were to happen, we would deploy together. And September 11th proved that.
Oh, wow.
We were the on-call base.
Oh, okay.
So
Got it.
after that, we did 9 years there. It was time to move. It was getting a little old, so we ended up came up here to Alaska, and fell in love with the place, and then never looked back.
Yeah, gotcha. And so you retired, you were stationed there, and then retired there, and then the Air Force said, man, Oink is so good at what he does, we're gonna give him a job out of uniform and let him grow his facial hair and all that.
Well, we experimented. We used the GI Bill right after retirement, got my CDL, got certified in welding, expand that resume a little bit, and then worked downtown for a year on the economy, and it doesn't pay as well as the federal jobs. So we ended up applying for the job that I have now, and luckily they allowed me to come back.
Yeah, there you
even
go.
With the facial hair. So
Yeah, there you go.
Can't complain.
Man, you can't. Man, I'm ready for the Army. If the Army does away with the beard clause, I'm gonna ask for an extension. I'm just gonna. No, you're right. I'm not gonna.
They're doing that now for the Air Force.
I heard.
They're
I
allowing
saw some
facial hair,
dude. I was at drill this weekend, and I saw some dude in another unit, like full-grown beard, looked like Devin, and I was like, hey.
You were at Fort Bragg, right?
I was at Fort Bragg,
Yeah.
and
That's a unit not to be named.
No, it was guy was in a reserve unit. You know what he is? He's a Odinist, right?
Ah.
He practices Scandinavian religion and got a waiver to grow a beard, and he looks awesome.
Well, as a chaplain, you could probably get away with that.
Well, I can't because I'm not an Odinist, right? I would have to switch. I'd have to switch teams. So
Yeah.
I like the team I'm on.
You like the team you're on.
I'm gonna stay.
Okay.
I'm gonna stay.
Even if you have to shave, you like
gonna
it. That's
stay
good
with-
to know that you
Yeah.
won't switch
Now,
just for shaving.
If I could make the case that Jesus wore a beard, right, and then I could write my own religious accommodation memo saying because Jesus wore a beard, then I should wear a beard, and because I want to follow him. Right? See the logic?
And following means you need to look like him.
Exactly.
Where's your flowing robe?
Well, that's next. Right?
Second step.
That's the next thing.
All right.
Hey, Scotty, tell us about some leaders that you served with that you looked up to in the Air Force in your time in service. We've got 2 minutes.
The one that kind of sticks out in my mind is now Brigadier General, or was Brigadier General. I haven't seen any videos of him in a while. Kenyon Bell. He was my squadron commander when I got up here to Elmendorf. And this gentleman knew your name, knew your wife's name, knew your kids' names, how many kids you had, what grade they were in. He was involved with just about every airman underneath him. And having a commander like that took that time to invest in the lowest ranking airman and got to know the troops, that was amazing to see as a major. And then later on, like I said, a few years ago, we were looking at some tech school photos, and he was the commander down there of all the training in at Wichita Falls, Texas. So it's been a few years since, like I said, we've seen photos and stuff of him, but that's one guy that just, as soon as I seen that name and his photo again, it just stuck out. It's like, wow, it couldn't happen to a better commander.
Yeah, and so it was like his connection with the folks that he led was what drew you to him, which I agree with that. And we can all, I think we all remember, I was telling a young lieutenant this weekend that, we learn leadership in a couple of different ways, right? And one is by example, right? You can go and go through, doctrinal definitions of leadership, but the way we really typically learn it is by example, and you can learn it both ways, right? You can learn from really good leaders, and then you can also learn from those that ain't so good at it. So,
well, it is time for our first break here. You are listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. You don't want to miss the rest of the show. Coming up next, we got Devil Dog Devin going to tell us about the project of the week. We're going to hear more from Oink about DV Radio, and you don't want to miss the segment about Tim Bates and his Super Mario Brothers kart racing.
Super Mario Brothers. Awesome. All right, so Oinky, we stay live on Facebook to chitter chatter with all 7 of our listeners today. Is that how many we got?
Well, currently live there's 10, but
10. Whoa.
What
Impressive.
I do realize that we may not have completely caught on to when we first started is that while it might be 10 now, it might be 10 more a little bit later.
It could be. Well, with the jokes that we're having, we're probably driving them away in droves. They're all going over to listen to Woody and Wilcox right now.
Now that we're off FCC, what was that marriage pro tip number 1? let's hear about that some more. I like that. That was great.
Don't be an and dang. She was so mad.
That's a really bad way to not get fed. Making
she still
your
fed
wife
me.
nervous and trying to scare her and being a jerk. That's probably not a good way to. You don't know what she put in your food.
So after I dispatched the mouse to the great outdoors, I have my GoPro camera up over the kitchen counter, and she's making dinner and putting tater tots on our casserole that we're going to have, which is my favorite, by the way. And I said, hey, and I turned it on. I was like, that was marriage pro tip number 1. She said, I'll tell you one thing right now. This better not be posted anywhere. And I went,
and here it is on the radio and Facebook.
Really? Oh, really?
That stupid video
Yeah.
later.
Oh, yeah.
It could go viral.
It's gonna go viral. It's gonna go viral. I haven't put it up yet because she hasn't given me permission. So I still know where I stand in this relationship. Yeah. Awesome.
Check with him, make sure he's still here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, he's talking to some friends at work.
Okay.
So
He's working. He's working while he's on.
yeah,
on air.
he's working while he's on his podcast. So
We should do one of those things where we try to guess what he's saying by his lips moving.
Yeah.
have you seen the bad lip reading?
Oh, yeah.
Oh man,
I think
those are
you
fantastic.
just said fire for effect.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
All right, good deal.
I'm not good at that.
Your wife's been posting some interesting stuff with her Christmas present on online and her 3D printer, making some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think I told 1 week the first thing she made was a USMC like challenge coin type thing.
Yeah.
But that dragon she made was amazing.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Made the stand and everything.
5 seconds.
All right, you are back live with Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We are here in studio with Oink from DV Radio, Air Force veteran and all-around radio star extraordinaire, all the way from Alaska. And then we have Tim Bates with us here, and we'll hear more from Tim and his service, and then transitioning to racing and now serving veterans. But right now, before we get back to Tim and to Oink, we're going to hear from Devil Dog Devin about Purple Heart Homes Project of the Week.
Devlin McGregor.
Well, hello! It was too loud that time. I heard the reverb in the mic.
You heard the reverb in your own ears?
Yeah, I was like, ooh!
He's got a face for radio, everybody.
How y'all doing today?
Well, glorious now. I'm awake now.
I think the entire state just turned their radio volume down.
FCC's coming for 2. That was on the Richter scale. I think.
I was trying to beat Isaiah's to the buttons.
He knows,
So you
he
can
knows
turn
when
me
it's
down
coming.
fast enough. I just get it in there real quick.
Lord have mercy.
Well, y'all ready to hear about the project of the
Yes,
week?
we
Let's
are.
hear it.
Let's hear it.
We're talking about PFC Washington in Richmond, Virginia.
All right.
Yeah, he's a Marine, and he was referred to us by the Independence Fund.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
All
Yeah,
right. We
so-
love those guys.
Yeah, they're great. But so what they do is they help veterans with mobility, and like wheelchairs and I saw some cool tracked chairs.
Track
on
chairs, that's kind of their main gig. man.
It is, and man, that's cool. But this veteran had some housing needs, and so that's not what they do. So they referred them to us, which is what happens a lot of times. We have partnerships with all kinds of other MPOs, and as a result of that, we partner up and we get each of the veterans to the right place. And this fella here, he's a Vietnam era vet. He's born 1945. I did some quick math. I used a calculator. And he's 78 years old.
Okay.
Right? And so he doesn't have service-connected disabilities, but he honorably served. And what he does have is he comes back home after serving his country honorably, and he's in a store, and he gets shot in a robbery attempt.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow.
And so one of the unique things about Purple Heart Homes is we don't just help service-connected disabled veterans.
We have a waiver process.
We have a waiver process.
That's correct.
And so in this case, that he's approved.
And for those that don't know, we don't help just Purple Heart awardees, right? And
Right.
so for those that don't know, we help any veteran of any era, of any conflict, whether they served in a conflict or not. And then if they're at a certain age, we will take a look at what they're asking for and what their life story is like, and then we will provide a waiver for them, especially for our older veterans who may have not gone to the VA.
Right. And I think I had misspoke. Thank you for clarifying that for me, Brad.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, so his roof was leaking, his gutters are falling off, and we connected with OC, and we're getting him a brand new roof,
OC?
new gutters.
Who's OC?
OC is Owens Corning, and they have a great foundation that helps veterans with roofs. And we did like 25 projects with them last year. They use us as a vetting process, and we connect them with the people that really need their help. And he wrote a letter to the VA. I saw it in there where he was talking about his request for assistance and how they only generally help qualified service connected, and I just can't reiterate enough how important it is to take care of all of our veterans, not just those who were injured in combat.
Yeah, agreed.
And I'm so proud to be part of an organization that recognizes that.
Where's that gent located at?
In Richmond, Virginia.
Richmond, Virginia.
And if you would like to help out, you can go to phhusa.org and hey, say you want to give some money to help out towards PFC Washington's project, and we'll get you connected. And if you want to physically help, we're opening up chapters all across the USA. Again, go in there, apply as a volunteer. We'll get you connected.
Okay.
You know what amazes me is that I've met 2 Marines this week. Actually, I've known them for a number of years, but they have poured out their heart this week. They, you think of a Marine as just being hard and a hard charger and a fighter and crayon eaters
That's
and all
correct.
that kind
That's
of stuff.
correct. Yeah.
But, to hear 2 Marines 2 days in a row talk about the value of helping all veterans just speaks volumes to me.
Yeah, and I think in our conversation with Dwayne yesterday, who we spoke with yesterday, one of the things that he talked about, and what we told him is that over years of support to Purple Heart Homes, that he had completed a ramp on his own, right? Over years of giving, right? He doesn't give a ton of money. He's not like, a guy that can stroke a check for $1 million. But over the years of his consistent giving, it added up to the cost of one ramp. And that really meant a lot to him, is that he was able to quantify what it was that he had given. And so that's the beautiful thing about what we do, is when folks do donate to us, they can actually see something that happened. That their dollars went into something that changed somebody's life, and they can get a picture of it, and to know that a family's been cared for.
We think about quantifying the dollars, and you think about weighing the impact, but truly there is no way to quantify or weigh the aspect of giving a veteran freedom of choice, that they can leave their home when they want to, that they can move around into their bathroom as they see fit and as they need to, not have to wait on somebody else.
For sure.
And it's just amazing, the impact. And so thank you for all the work that you're doing there, Devin, and for sharing that story with us. Thanks to all those supporters out there. Tim, for your work as well. And before we get back to Oink and DV Radio, let me just ask you here, one of the listeners on Facebook has said that we have to ask you about Super Mario Brothers kart racing, since you're a professional racer. Is this like you have some kind of point standing on Mario Kart? Or what?
No. So I do the it's called iRacing, and so I've got a rig and a nice setup. My wife's made me move to the garage, but there's quite a bit of money tied into that. And I do open wheel racing, so I do it quite a bit, and I have won some money doing it. Me and a group of Army buddies, we do this. It's kind of like an Olympics, where we go golfing, bowling, and then play pool. And then the last event every year is Mario Kart. And I get stomped in that every year.
Oh, I see. So this is an Army buddy, Joel,
Yes.
who is telling us that he must be the victor on Mario Kart.
He is.
He's beating
He's
the
got
great.
a belt. He's got it all.
Do y'all have a belt?
Yeah, it's like a
Like
WWE belt. Yeah, it's nice.
That's hilarious.
That is
I love
awesome,
it.
man.
Can they put this on the podcast? Can we watch you get defeated in Mario Kart?
No, I think we left that part out. But the belt's definitely involved in the
I'm
podcast.
sure it's talked about.
It
is.
is.
It is talked about. So
That's
good.
hilarious.
Hey, well, Scotty, can you, since we're laughing so much, can you tell us a funny story from your time in service?
Oh wow, that kind of reminds me of a story you were talking earlier tonight about some going mudding, and unfortunately, the job I had back at Mountain Home there in Idaho, I had to go pick up some light carts at the end of the runway, and the pavement stopped and I couldn't see it because there was a sheet of ice, just a thin layer of ice, and of course I'm driving close to it, let the tow bar down onto the pintle hook, and needless to say, I went off the pavement,
Awesome.
into the mud, and buried the truck.
Awesome.
So, we got stuck. And needless to say, we had to get the winch out there and the wrecker, and he pulled me out. And then as I run back, on the shoulder of the flight line there to get back to the shop, I line up the truck perfectly on the grates that were greasy in the wash rack. And those grates went flying, and the truck sank down into the wash rack. So
Awesome.
It was a 2-for-1 day.
I'm sure some senior NCO had some kind words for you that day. So
Especially the airfield manager. He did not appreciate me getting mud all over the flight line.
Absolutely.
Wash rack, just for our listeners that don't know, that is like a super high pressure, absolutely nasty place to give a military vehicle a bath.
Yeah.
We actually had a bird bath. We used to drive our howitzers through and all of our track vehicles, and then you would take everything apart and use these water cannons to clean everything out with. And so you're talking about frozen, earth, right? You're talking about mud and all kinds of different stuff going on. It's already wet outside, and you're going through a wash rack. That's a miserable duty right there. It is not fun.
Yeah. That is miserable.
That's cool.
Well, good deal, man. Hey, listen, if you missed any part of this show, you can find us on iHeart Radio or wherever you get your podcasts.
And so speaking of podcasts, let's turn back to DV Radio and tell our listeners a little bit about DV Radio and what that does for the veteran community and some of the changes that you've seen out of veterans after having been on the show.
Well, one of the things we take pride in is obviously hooking up with organizations like Purple Heart Homes and making that well known to, or maybe known to some folks that don't know any about it, especially in the veteran community. We always take care of one another, and I think that's something that Devil Dog mentioned there was that we take care of all veterans. So we have that same concept. You know, if it's taking care of the mental health, we know people. If it's talking about VA loans and the process of how to go through that, again, we know people. Now that we know Purple Heart Homes, if you need home repairs or assistance in getting your home, equipped for a wheelchair ramp, hey, we know some folks, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we kind of pride ourselves in. But the biggest accomplishment I think that we take pride in is when we hear these stories when DV6, again, the CEO, goes out on the road for these fundraisers for the farm, that he'll come back and tell us personally that, hey, so you'll have a veteran come up to him and say, hey, I really appreciate what you guys are doing on the radio. That sobered me up Saturday nights so I could just sit there and listen.
Mm-hmm.
It saved me from taking my own life or getting so depressed that I wanted to take my life. And when you hear stories like that, that's our payment. I mean, we're all volunteers on DV Radio. None of us get paid. Matter of fact, most of us pay into the radio to keep it going. But we're all volunteers, and we do it because we enjoy taking care of other veterans one way or another.
And there's a ton of other nonprofits that you guys support and promote on there. There's a list of probably at least 8 or 10 that I've seen on the website, and so all these nonprofits do different things. And one thing that's really funny. So Bo, who is one of the co-hosts on the show, and Bo can't say Purple Heart Homes. He can't say it, and so every time
he's not allowed.
He literally he physically can't say it. He fumbles it every time.
Most people can't write it. They say PPH.
Yeah, PPH.
Where do you get the other P? It's two H's, not two P's.
Right.
What's the matter?
Well, Bo will be on the air, and anytime he's asking me a question. So Brad, what do you do at? And then he'll go oink, and then oink will go Purple Heart Homes. It's so funny, man. It kind of caught me off guard the first time I was on there. I was like, "What's going on, man?" It's a really, really good show, and the farm. And so I got really interested in the farm, and so I jumped on the DV Farm Facebook page, and DV6, the CEO, is on there a lot. Talking about what he's doing, and it looks like he's like a one-man show up there, fixing things and getting things ready. But it's a really neat concept what they've got going on to invite veterans, and it's in New Hampshire, so it's cold up there, and so they're doing winter stuff right now, and they've got animals and all kinds of things to look after, and I think that's really healthy. For folks that go there, and I commend them for what they've been doing.
So, how do people find your show? Tell our listeners how they find the show. What do they need to look up?
Easiest way to get there is www.dvradio.net, and we do a live show every Saturday night, kind of like here. It's called Barracks Talk, and again, because it is web-based, the FCC does not get involved.
So it's not rated PG, is what you're saying.
It is not rated PG. It is definitely for the veterans, and when I mean veterans, I'm talking. It could be some hardcore veterans. It could be some, like here we're being professional, and we can conduct ourselves at times when we need to. But
so I could come on and talk about all the hazing activities that we used to do.
Of course.
All right, because I think I'm past this. I think I'm past the date of being court-martialed.
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm not. I've never hazed nobody. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of the atomic sit-up. I don't know anything about it.
Statute
what
of
is
limitations is still in play, so you can't continue. You can't talk about that. So.
I think they said that I caused some people some PTSD.
There's a attack team that gets stacking up on the door right now to come get you. So that's awesome. Well, we encourage everybody to go out and check out DV Radio Saturday nights. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern, isn't that right? Or is it before?
8 p.m. Eastern now.
8 p.m.
We
Eastern.
An hour because we try to get DV6 on there with us, but he can't get past even 7 o'clock anymore. So, we tried.
Hey, I feel his pain, man. Like 7 p.m., I'm looking over at Miss Tammy going, about time to go to bed, right?
So let me ask you, can listeners support DV Radio aside from just listening? Do y'all take donations, and does it support the cause?
Yeah, DV Radio is obviously not a 501c3. The DV Farm is. But if you do want to donate to DV Radio, head over there, and there is a donate button at the bottom of the webpage. If you're going to do it reoccurringly, obviously we have no choice. We're kind of used to PayPal. You have to set up an account with them. It's not our terms; it's theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But you can support us directly, or again, we support ourselves. And if we were going to give to somebody, I say give to Purple Heart Homes, give to any of the other charities that we list on there that are 501c3s. because your money's going to go a long way, and you get that little bit of a tax break at the end.
Well, thanks for that. And I know you guys are certainly making an impact. We just got a application from Wasilla, Alaska, over the weekend, and so I'm sure that was a local veteran up there that's listening to you all and has heard a little more about us, and so we appreciate that. And so many veterans out there that have need. And
Wasilla, that's home of Governor Palin.
Yeah,
that's where she's from.
We got a chapter not far from there. Hopefully
that's
we're gonna
right.
be able to get this veteran helped out. If not, I think we might just have to plan a contingency to head on up there and knock it out.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
That's right.
We've done that before.
Nothing like working in the frozen tundra. Right?
My goal was, and before we go to break here, when we went up there in 2019, we had this trip planned where we were gonna drive from North Carolina to Alaska, and we figured out we were like go across the Alcan Highway in a big truck with a Purple Heart Homes trailer behind it with all our tools and everything, and then we went, that's probably not a great idea.
That's where. I wonder how it would have turned out for Heart Attack Rob if we would have drove.
We will. Hey, maybe we should revisit that story before we in the show today. So we'll talk about Heart Attack Rob and how all that happened. So
it is time for our break. Want to give a special shout out to all of our sponsors. Just thank you all for being able to support and allow us to share all these stories. You're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. And don't forget to stay tuned so we can hear more from Tim Bates and Oink from DV Radio.
You're talking about Alaska.
So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do the Heart Attack Rob story while we're on Facebook.
Yeah.
So So when we decided to go to Alaska to help this veteran, our original plan was to drive, and we were going to be gone a month, and it just wasn't a great. It would have been an adventure, and we'd still be telling stories about it. But we got more stories because we flew up, and Rob and Tammy and I we were kind of the Advon. We were the first team that went in, and Rob gets off the airplane in Fairbanks and says, "I'm not feeling very good. My heart's hurting." So if you didn't know this about Rob, a number of years ago, Rob actually had a heart attack, not unlike what happened to the young man with the Buffalo Bills. He got hit in the chest with a basketball, but he was already and collapsed. And anyhow, the firemen had to revive him on the basketball court. He was playing basketball with his kids. But anyhow, that night we ended up going to the hospital, and the doctor said, "Yeah, man, you had a heart attack," and he had a heart attack on the airplane while we were flying up there.
Gosh.
And then
so
when we got
4 of you that flew up to begin with, and then 4 of us that flew up after, and that was all sponsored by Woody and Wilcox.
Yeah, Woody Wilcox. It was
show.
called Operation Restore Freedom, and then Woody and Wilcox and the rest of the team came up later on. Well, Rob was down. It was just me and Tammy, and we had to start this ramp.
And Shu was with you.
No, well, Shu didn't come till later.
Oh, that's right. Shu came once Rob had the heart attack
Yeah,
to be
I
able
had
to
to
help
call
support.
Shu, and I was like, "Hey, Rob's had a heart attack."
And
What?
Rob's son, Landon, was with him.
That's right. Landon.
So
Landon.
it was 4 of
came
you
with-
that went up,
That's
and then
correct.
Shu came up, and then me and Parker and Woody and Wilcox all came up.
Yeah, that's right. And then so we ended up doing a project in Fairbanks, and then one in Anchorage, and that was kind of how we got the 2 chapters started there. So we were up there
It was a
for
phenomenal project.
13 days.
One of the
something like
veterans had a stroke. Retired veteran had a stroke and was in a wheelchair, permanently in a wheelchair, and needed a wheelchair ramp. That was really cool. And another veteran had cancer and needed some bathroom remodeling and some wheelchair ramp and accessibility
and
stuff.
He passed away.
Yeah, he
passed away about a year later.
But man, the hope that it restored and brought to him in that little bit of time
it was
he had
incredible.
left was amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. So we had a good time. So that's how. And we were at this gathering with Woody and Wilcox, and they had been talking about him on the radio, and they introduced Rob, and somebody screamed out, "Heart attack, Rob!" and the whole place started going, "Heart attack, Rob!" It was fantastic.
You'd think he was a heartthrob.
Yeah, heartthrob, Rob.
All right, you're back live with Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes, and we are joined by special guest Oink from DV Radio, all the way from Alaska, and Tim Bates, one of our project managers here for Purple Heart Homes, and learning about their reintegration, the work that they're doing now, and just enjoying a lot of laughter with some great veterans. And so, Tim, let's hear a little more about this belt. We've got some listeners online that are talking about the McBad belt. What is the McBad belt?
So my brother-in-law, who lives up in Michigan, retired chief of police. It's the Mick. His last name's McCormick, and then Bates, and then Dalton. So again, we started off with the first was golf, and Joel, listen out there, I did beat him in golf.
Oh yeah, you beat Joel in golf.
Beat Joel in golf. Yep. So let's just get that clear, and then then there might have been some drinks consumed, and we went bowling. I didn't do so good there, and then billiards. Where were we at? We were at some beach, but the place we played billiards at was pretty sketchy, and so it came down to the karting, and I got smoked. So
And you got smoked. So you didn't get. Have you ever won the belt?
I had the belt after the first day, and I took pictures and posted it all over social media.
So the belt is new this year?
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
All right, so when does the next, dysfunctional
it's
veteran?
April 10th, I believe. Is
That's
the
the
date.
next
Yeah.
dysfunctional veteran Olympics.
Yep, that's correct.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
We're playing 2 trips a year with some different groups, and we go April, and then we'll go again Veterans Day weekend. We go on a trip. Last year we went to Atlantic City. So.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about your time in service. What'd you do?
So,
You were
John,
awesome.
I didn't deploy. I did do.
my bad.
It's all right. 27 years. Over 27 years, I joined right out of high school. Mm-hmm. Just a way to get out. I wouldn't say that I dreamed about going to the Army or anything like that. I just needed a way to get out of my area. Got stationed in Germany. Came back. The guard came calling and offered me a little bonus, and took him up on that. I did 7 years as a traditional guardsman, just on the weekends, and then was fortunate enough to get an AGR job up in Michigan, and then transferred from Michigan down to North Carolina, down to Charlotte when they opened up. I was signal for most of my career, and then when I moved upstairs with the brigade in Charlotte, the 130th Maneuver Enhancement Brigade, I was an engineer. And so I retired in 2018. So,
do you have any legendary stories about your time in service? And John is always talking about how illustrious the 30th Brigade is, and I was just wondering if you had anything to contribute to how illustrious.
I'm glad to see that you're starting to embrace this.
It
warms my heart.
That
really just
all of
warms
that
my
was
heart.
just steeped in sarcasm.
Oh,
right?
I didn't catch that. I thought just the seriousness on your face. It just
I don't
it
know
told me that
all
you
about
loved me.
the historical, and I do know most of it. But
See,
of course
see,
you do.
You have to know
all
it.
the guys I'm talking about doing this belt and everything else come out of the 30th. So I mean, all my friends are out of it.
Highly competitive warriors. Let me tell you, warriors.
Yeah. So, hey, tell us a funny story from your time in service.
Oh gosh, I don't think we can tell them on the radio.
All right, we'll have to transition to the 9 o'clock
DV
show.
radio. Yeah, Bates can go on DV radio on Saturday
pass
nights.
on that one. Hard pass.
Yeah, it involved statutes of limitations.
So then last year, I went to work at Lowe's Corporate after I got out. When COVID hit, I got relieved of my duties there, which was kind of fine with me. I didn't really like the corporate world so much. And then last year, I was fortunate enough to start working here.
Yeah.
In April, and I love every bit of
Man,
it.
you've been crushing it as a project manager, and hey, tell everybody, is there one project that sticks out to you that we were like, man, that's the way I do this?
There's a lot of them. I got one right now. Mr. Smith Jr., he's out of Fayetteville. His home was just dilapidated. It was terrible. But he didn't come to us. Habitat did. And how that worked out was there's another veteran we helped out over the summer, Mr. Preston Jackson, and we fixed his floors and then other projects got done at his house. He went out and decided to give back, so he went to work for Habitat, came across this Mr. Smith. Habitat was doing everything in his house.
Back up a second. So we helped a guy, and then he wanted, because we helped him,
Yes,
he
sir.
wanted to give back, and so he went to work at Habitat.
Yep, he's
That
been
is
volunteering time with
amazing.
Habitat. Yeah, give him back.
That is fantastic.
Habitat was doing it. They weren't going to have enough money or funds to completely. He got removed from his house. Him and his wife both. This is early December. He had Habitat. Well, he reached out to me first, Mr. Jackson, and then Habitat reached out to me. So we were able to get him applied through our website. We're able to get the funds. Unfortunately, his wife passed away on December 29th, and he still was homeless. We're able to give him the funds, and this house should be done in the next week or two. So,
Oh, man, way to
have
go,
just finished
Scott.
up. So,
That is
I mean,
awesome.
that kind of stuff gets your hair
Yeah,
grows up on
man.
your arms. and
Yeah,
it's pretty
we
good
call
stuff.
that Jesus bumps.
That's right.
man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just
man.
amazing at how
The why.
That is
how
the why.
society works, and hearing about people getting removed from their home. It's that's what they fought for, to live out their days, to live out their life where they want to live, and just to own a home and have a safe and peaceful place to raise a family, and so it's great work that you're doing there,
Yeah,
Tim.
it's
And
awesome.
it's phenomenal to be able to partner with organizations like Habitat and Independence Fund and Simplify Fund and so many other great organizations out there, and DV Radio, and being able to spread the word and the message out there. And so, one thing that I hear, the theme that I hear from both of you all that I just want to point out is that the continuation of the camaraderie, the keeping together with other veterans to be able to lift one another up, to be able to support one another, and even in how you help somebody, even helping the other veteran, and they want to continue to give back and help other veterans and continue to network with other veteran charities. It takes a community. It's all about working together to make sure that those that served and sacrificed have the support that they need. So thank you both for doing that.
For sure. Hey, Scotty, we talked about, a little bit about transition, but what was, like after spending 20 years in uniform, not having to worry about your clothes selection every day and just the predictability that the military offers. What was it for you personally? What was the toughest part about transitioning, over to the beard growing side of things?
I've heard this from a lot of veterans through the shows and everything else that we've done, and that's that transition from, like you said, mentioning where your clothes were picked out every day for you. You knew what you were doing every day. There was no question about it. And then, going to the civilian side of the house to where, that camaraderie, I think, is the biggest thing, to where, that person that doesn't have your six is not guarded anymore. You're by yourself, and no matter what you say, no matter what you do, you're just kind of feeling alone.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the biggest thing that I missed, even after 20 years, was that camaraderie between brothers and sisters, and knowing that somebody always had your back, no matter what you went through.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think that is part of what I hear, all the time from veterans, is that I feel when they're not reconnected, don't find a new team to be a part of. They feel alone, right? And many times they think they're the only ones that are like that. So then it becomes sort of this self-loathing, right? Where you're like, I'm the only one that feels like this. I'm by myself, and then when the light shines on and they realize that, hey, that's common. That's a common thread that
I
people
can
feel.
tell you that being next to you every day, I certainly know that I'm not the only one that's dysfunctional.
Well,
Second.
yes.
That's why we keep having Brad. He fits the bill just perfect,
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Well, I mean, hearing stories like holding a mouse out in front of your wife, and having her tell you how much she does not like you in that very
and not only that,
moment.
but laughing about it. I mean, I was just,
it makes
I
me feel
giggled for
normal.
an hour.
Makes me feel normal.
Yeah, I giggled for an hour, and she said, "Oh yeah, you did, right?" She was not pleased with me for a number of moments last night. I woke up this morning, though. She's still there, right? She did not exit the premises in the middle of the night, pack her bags and leave. Day ain't over yet.
Yeah, we're lucky she didn't leave, because you wouldn't have been able to get here. You need her for your driver. I did get released. To be able to drive. I didn't have to have a driver today.
Well, that's true. Well, we for those that don't know, I was injured back in the summer, and I couldn't drive for a really long time, and then so Tammy had to take me everywhere, and we just kind of kept that up because her little car gets great gas mileage, and so now she just drives me all over the place. I just don't like to drive anymore. I've got a chauffeur
make
now.
fun of her about a mouse, and she's your chauffeur.
Yeah, she's my chauffeur. Yeah.
And your cook.
I didn't say I was the smartest guy in the world, right? But I do have a driver. Hold on, let me call my driver. She's also my admin assistant and everything else. Right?
Yeah. I'll make sure to call her when I need to schedule you for a
Oh,
meeting.
for sure. Yeah, she knows. So,
Well, you are listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes, and we have a special guest with us, Scotty Pigg, affectionately known as Oink from DV Radio, Air Force veteran and radio extraordinaire with us all the way from Alaska. We've got veteran Tim Bates here with us also, and just learning about their work and with other veterans and the support and services that they provide. And so if you missed any part of today's show, you can join us on Spotify or iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast.
awesome. So, hey, Scotty, and this is a question for both of you, Scotty and Tim. We'll let you take turns on this. And what would you do to challenge listeners that maybe they're not veterans into supporting the veterans in their community, wherever they're listening? What would you say? What's a good way for them to get involved in that?
One of the easiest ways is obviously to go over to purplehearthomesusa.org and check out and see if there's a local chapter in your area of Purple Heart Homes, or check out any 501c3 company that's going to be supporting the military community as a whole, whether it be from Objective Zero to just any great organizations that are out there that support our military and have been fact checked and are worth where your money's going to be going to.
I love the mission of Objective Zero. Tell us a little bit about that right quick.
Objective Zero started from a couple military veterans that, like everybody else, had trouble transitioning from the military, and started out as just two brothers getting together and chatting. And from that, they spurred the idea of starting an app on your phone, free of charge, that you could connect another fellow-like veteran to talk to somebody when you wanted to talk, that you needed to talk. And there's no repercussions. You can check them out at objectivezero.org. Again, it's a free app for your phone, Android and iOS, and it basically connects veterans together for when you have to talk to somebody, when you feel like you need to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and the Objective Zero is just that's the goal, right? That no veteran would take their own life. So
exactly.
But, yeah, that's awesome, man. Tim, what do you think? What can folks do in their communities to support what veterans?
If you know a veteran, ask them. I mean, they're going to know which organizations are out there that are supporting veterans and doing it the right way. There's some organizations out there, as we all know, that maybe not using that money as well as they could. So yeah, reach out to other veterans or stop by your VFW.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to find a veteran too. If you live in a neighborhood and you see a dude that's got a flagpole in his yard, and there's a Marine Corps flag hanging from that pole with a American flag on it, you might go, man, that guy might have served. Maybe just go
and look for the bumper stickers too.
Yeah, look for bumper stickers.
Dysfunctional veteran. Right?
Yeah, there could be bumper stickers that say things that might offend you.
You might avoid them.
Right. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if they're out mowing their grass or something, and you just walk up to them and say, hey, saw you were a veteran. Thank you for your service. I'm your neighbor, and maybe you'll find a new friend and somebody that you can count on, because veterans really love to be involved in missions of protecting others.
I think one of the things that's most important, and General Schwanek was on the show a while back, and he'll be joining us here coming up on next week's show as well.
Good Lord, help us. Lord help us.
One of the things he said last year when he was on the show was that it's important to ask veterans questions like, tell me about your service, or where did you serve? Yeah. Engage with them in conversation. Don't just simply say thank you for your service and walk off. And while those gestures like buying a coffee or buying a beer or buying a meal for a veteran are great, and we thank you all the folks that do that, but engage with them in some conversation and just ask them to tell you a little bit about their service. What you'll find is most veterans are proud of their service, and they want to share some memories from that time.
Yeah, and you might get a funny story out of it.
And you might get a funny story.
I mean, I would say 100% chance you'll get a funny story out of it, and it might blow your mind. So awesome. So. Well, we do have a great show coming next week.
Please continue.
We do have a great show coming next week.
We'll have to hold those thoughts and comments for DV Radio.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyhow, hey Tim, what do you got coming up for 2023? How many projects are you going to get done this year?
So my goal is to have 50. I mean, that's easy.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Yeah, that's my goal.
50 veteran
So we'll
projects.
see. We'll see. We got to have that funding come in. So
that's right.
Funding come in, and we'll get 50.
That's awesome, man. And so if we multiply 50 times our other project managers, that'd be right at 200 for the year. So that would be that would be pretty incredible. We just clipped 1,000 back in the fall, and I don't think it's going to take us. I don't think it's going to take us very long to get to 2,000. So
not at all,
yeah,
not at all. Great team doing some phenomenal work. And so, Scotty, as we prepare to close here, is there anything you'd like to add or share with us, and what you have going on up there in Alaska? Any support or needs that you all know about?
Again, if you're up here in Alaska and you're listening, check out the Cook Inlet chapter for Purple Heart Homes. They're doing some things up here for veterans, and per capita we have the largest amount of veterans in our community. So I know there's going to be more projects coming because obviously the COVID thing kind of slowed us down for a while, but we're looking forward to helping these guys out as much as we can.
That's awesome, man.
That
Scotty, we can't thank you enough for being on the show today. You too, Tim. We appreciate you both, and thanks for what you're doing for others. And Scotty, I know you're getting ready to get off work here shortly and go to bed, but thank you, brother. We really appreciate it. So next week we have the General's making his return appearance. So General Chuck Swanwick, the 82nd Airborne Commander in the early days of the Iraq War, West Point guy, basketball player, and now he works for Speedway
and we'll be
Motorsports.
sure to talk about how the 30th came to the rescue, the 82nd and the 101st at the Battle of the Bulge.
I'm sure that's going to happen, so you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great show. And hey, thanks for listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. You can find out more about us at phhusa.org, and we will see you next week.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Galena and Brad Borders. Join us again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 5 p.m. for Putting the Pieces Back Together on News Talk WSIC.
Hey, Scotty, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Oh, can't wait, man. All right, I'm going to jump on with you guys here in the next month or so and come in and say hey, if that'd be all right.
Yeah, and let me know. I'd love to join.